JP, good to see you, brother. How you doing? Evening. How you been? Pablo, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Joe, good to see you as well. How you doing? Evening. How you been? How's everyone doing today? Okay. Mac, good to see you as well. How you doing? Evening. How you been? Tor, good to see you as well. Evening, Miles and CMF. How you doing, Tor? How you been? Lee, good to see you as well. Evening. How you doing? Lena, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Suze, morning, Miles and CMF. Good to see you as well. Suze, how you doing? How you been? How's everyone doing today? So, yeah, Blood, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Mac, I'm good, thanks. Just seeing if you can confirm a convo I had with someone earlier. Sure, go ahead, Mac. What's the question? Comatose, hey, brother Miles and family, how you today? I'm doing great, Comatose. Good to see you. How you doing? T, hello, Miles. Hope you're well. I'm doing better. T, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Mac, go for the question. What was the conversation you were having earlier that you want confirmation on? With your friend, I'm guessing. Morning, Miles, CMF. Solomon, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Now, by the time everyone tunes in, let's do the intro disclaimer and what we're going to be talking about essentially on tonight's live, because there's a few things happening around the world right now. There's a few things happening in America in terms of regulations when it comes to crypto assets as well. Good evening, Miles. How are you? I'm doing great. Candy, good to see you. How you doing? If everybody could leave a comment outside the live, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Let's go. Facts. If you do get a chance right now, CMF members, if you're watching this on X, go to the comment section outside of the live, put a comment, hashtag XRP on me, anything you want, and then essentially like other people's comments inside the comment section as well, outside the live on X, retweet, and jump back in the live. Sold. Fantastic. Looking for all these green candles. Let's go, JP. Sold half my bag of ACH and added more XRP. You think it's a good decision? Even if I have lots of XRP, it's always a great decision to have more XRP, to be fairly honest. But why not? I mean, ACH is an incredible asset as well. It's going to do very well for itself in the long term wise. But obviously, XRP will do better than ACH in the long term. So you're good. It's a great move. You know, it's not a bad move if you're thinking about it. Will the XRP private ledger be the same price as the public ledger? Yes. Okay. This is probably a question that might confuse a lot of people inside the crypto space. So it's a question that comes up quite often on the X spaces and so on. So Mac, the simplest way to say it is, the simplest way to put it is, there are two ledgers for the XRP. There's the public ledger and there's the private ledger of XRP. The private ledger is where all the testing is done for, whatever purpose is going to be used, which is institutional purposes. And then there's the public ledger that we get to see. Now, what you got to remember is the price of XRP is the same because there's only one XRP token. So yes, there are two ledgers. One's public XRP ledger, one's private XRP ledger, but there's only one token, which is XRP. So let's say, for example, if the price of XRP on the private ledger, for example, is $10, then the price of XRP on the public ledger will also be $10 because there's only one token and the open market sets the price. Now, the reason for that is that it doesn't make a difference what ledger it's operating on. It's always going to have one price, is because otherwise people could buy it essentially through the public ledger, and then through arbitrary, they can sell essentially their XRP for a higher value on the private ledger, which then again, the open market will set the price. So essentially, yes, there's a public ledger and a private ledger for XRP, but the open market sets the price. So it doesn't matter. There's only one XRP token, even if there is two ledgers. And through arbitrary, you could sell it on the public ledger for cheap. Essentially, you could buy it cheaper on the public ledger if it's been more on the XRP ledger for the private ledger, and sell it through arbitrary. So there's no difference. It's one XRP token, same price, both ledgers. Now, Hope that helps, Mac. Hey, brother Miles and family, how are you today? Comatose, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Let's see what Dennis. Okay, we're here. Dennis, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Professor Miles and the CMF family. Funky brother, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Trump coin. Let's go. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Bullock Soppy, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Evening, Miles and CMF. Manny, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Orphan, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Thanks for clearing that up. That's what I was saying in my convo, that they can't have different prices. Appreciate you. No problem, brother. Anytime, Mac. Miles, can you please clarify this myth regarding ISO tokens? Will they pump the price up? Okay, the other question regarding the crypto space is the ISO section. Is the ISOs going to pump the price of crypto projects? Yes, in a way, because essentially no crypto project is technically an ISO crypto project, but the category for you to become essentially an ISO project, some projects are compliant, can become compliant under that. And one of them essentially being XRP. And yes, you know, once ISO is essentially, it's just a messaging standard. And then there's the ISO 2.7, which is a security standard. But yes, once we get to that stage, it basically means that it's embedded into the financial system. If a token is embedded to the financial system, then obviously the price is going to be going higher. So ISO 2.2 is, you know, the messaging standard. ISO 2.7 is a security standard. But yeah, it is. Now, Pierre's good to see you as well. How you doing? Even Miles and CMF, how you been? So let's do the intro disclaimer. Let's talk about what we're going to go through on tonight's live. So welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, it stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles. I go by the persona of Crypto Miles, and I'm the host of this live Monday to Friday, 11:25 p.m. UK time onwards. And on this live, I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. And we also do Q&As on this live as well, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. And a disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, and if you're regular, let's go CMF. Also, I want to say thank you so much to everybody who's liked this live as well, because I'm still receiving notifications on X. Thanks so much to everyone who's liked this live on X, who's retweeted this live on X, who's hashtagged the XRP on me or XRP in general inside the comment section outside the live on X. And thanks so much to everyone on YouTube who's watching right now, also who's also liked the live as well. Now, let's go through what we're going to go through on tonight's live. You know, there's a few things happening right now in terms of regulations and what's being approved and around the world in general. So on tonight's episode, which is episode 252 of the CMF Live, well, episode 252 right now, we're going to be talking about essentially crypto firms doubling down on influencing US elections. So there are obviously still some elections going on in terms of who's going to be mayor of whatever, essentially who's going to be mayor of what state and so on. And crypto companies are not slowing down in terms of donations. They really do want to push, you know, crypto policies in every aspect of politics in the United States, which they should do, to be fairly honest, because they were kicked out of politics beforehand, and now they're fully involved in it, which is the better way to go forward. We're also going to be talking about Illinois, essentially another state in America who's just essentially applied for a Bitcoin reserve streak fund. Then we're going to be talking about essentially Norway, Norway's wealth fund boost, which is one of their biggest wealth fund managers who's getting involved in terms of Bitcoin holdings. And then we're also going to be talking about Utah, where they essentially did something very different towards, you know, what Texas is doing or what Illinois is doing, or and so on, where Utah is actually thinking about creating a crypto reserve instead of just a Bitcoin reserve, which makes a lot more sense. We're also going to be going essentially and talking about on tonight's live regarding the ECB, the European Central Bank. Now, yesterday I revealed some news essentially that Czech Republic is thinking about introducing a Bitcoin reserve through their central bank. Well, the ECB, the European Central Bank, has, you know, essentially said, nope, you can't do that. We are not going to be accepting Bitcoin in centralized banks in the EU. So essentially, they've been shut down. But we're going to go through that on tonight's live. We're also going to be talking about on tonight's live regarding the matters of Kraken. Kraken Exchange had a dispute going on with the SEC. And that dispute has come to an end, where Kraken Exchange now can start, essentially offering more services to United States customers, and also offering them staking services as well in the US, because they've now just settled with the SEC completely. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live regarding El Salvador, who has, for the longest time, made it mandatory for everyone to accept Bitcoin in their country, but no longer. It's no longer mandatory to have to accept Bitcoin in El Salvador, where this is the influence of the International Monetary Fund basically on El Salvador. We're going to go through that on tonight's live as well. We're also going to be talking about Tether, USDT, on tonight's live also. Tether has been shut down from the EU, which is one of the biggest market spaces out there. They've been shut down from Canada slightly as well, and the US could be next to kick out Tether. But we have some responses from Tether themselves, their CEO, on everything that's going on, and that USDT is being pushed out slowly, and they're not too happy about it. We're also going to go through on tonight's live news related to Grayscale. I'm guessing everybody's heard that news regarding Grayscale essentially opening their doors and launching more Bitcoin, and essentially a Bitcoin ETF for miners, essentially, which is an interesting play they're doing right now. But we're also going to be talking about Grayscale in terms of XRP filings on tonight's live. And we're also going to be talking about a digital wealth fund who has now used, for the first time ever, XRP as collateral. Now, this is the first time we've ever been essentially seen this, because typically the loans and the collaterals that are being used with all these major firms have been Bitcoin ETFs. But the first time ever, there is a firm out there who has used XRP as collateral to borrow against. So it's a massive firm as well. So before we go through any of those news topics on tonight's live, the first news we are going to be covering on tonight's live is regarding crypto firms doubling down on the politics side, which is great to see, because we need more politicians to be more in favor of crypto regulations and policies to, get the train going much more faster pace. But before we go through any of those news topics, I just want to go through the comment section first, and then we'll go straight for the first news, which is regarding crypto companies doubling down on politics, which is amazing to see. And as I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go straight into the first news, and then comments, news, back and forward. Let's see where we were at in the comment section. And I read everybody's comments one by one as well, so I don't leave anybody out. Let's see where we were at. We were at here. Miles, day 3, and you seem to be feeling much better. Let's go, Scott. Thank you, brother. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Good to see you all. Freedom forever. How you doing, Scott? Good to see you all, brother. How you doing? Evening, Miles. Emmanuel, good to see you all. How you doing? How you been? Share the live. Let's go, Scott. Hi, Miles. I'm working, so I'll be catching up later. Have a great show. See you same time tomorrow. Autistic, let's go. See you same time tomorrow, and have fun at work. Hello, Miles and CMF. Junos, good to see you all. How you doing? How you been? DZ Bank partners with XRP. That's DZ Bank partnered with XRP a while ago, to be fairly honest as well. But maybe they have more partnerships going on, but maybe different essentially departments now. That's great to hear. What up, Miles? Thank you for that. Thank you for the update, funky brother. What up, Miles and CMF? Hope all is well. Ray, good to see you, brother. How you been? How's things? Miles, is this news true regarding DZ Bank partners of XRP? It's DZ Bank partners of Ripple, but yes, it is true. But it was a while ago, to be fairly honest. Congratulations, Miles, on episode 252 of the CMF Live. I'm an OG and enjoying every moment. Let's go, Scott. Share the live. Let's go, Scott. Sue says, can anyone recommend a good source / website to learn the basics of crypto? Still trying to get my head around all the terms used, how it all works. Yes. Sue's, or for anybody else that's watching right now, and you want to have a better understanding when it comes to cryptocurrencies, just the basics, essentially, you can go to coinmove.one. If you go to Google, it's completely free for life because it's my own blockchain company, and it's completely free for life. You can go to Google and just type in coin move, and it'll be the first website on Google. And then you can essentially you can study from there. Go to the learn section in the menu. All the basics of crypto are there for you to learn. And I've made it very simple as well, so everybody can learn at a much more faster rate. Suze, if you want, I'll just send you the website on Telegram to you to make it easier for you, so you don't have to search for it. But it is literally the first website on Google. But just in case, I'll send it to you on Telegram as well. Hi, Miles and CMF. George, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? So, first news on tonight's live. is crypto firms doubling down, essentially influencing US elections via the PACs in 2026. Now, as I said previously, crypto firms are not slowing down whatsoever when it comes to politics, because that's how you get regulations, that's how you get everything moving at a lot more faster pace. And the Political Essentially Action Committee, the PAC Fair Share, which could have contributed to many candidates essentially turning pro-crypto in terms of the views winning the 2024 US elections. It is one of the main reasons. One of the main reasons why we have a complete Republican sweep alongside Donald Trump is because the crypto companies funded massively towards Republican candidates. And that is one of the reasons we also have a clean sweep when it comes to Republicans in every sector. And they're not slowing down. There are more donations from Ripple, Coinbase, Kraken, Crypto.com pouring into these politicians still to keep them pro-crypto as well. And they're also getting ready for 2026, essentially midterms, outcomes, and influences as well. So a notice came out today from the Fair Share, and it said that it has added more than $11 million in contributions from unnamed sources, which at the time of essentially publication had not been reported to the Federal Essentially Electoral Commissions, the FEC. However, some of the PAC's most prominent donors essentially have included Ripple Labs, Coinbase, venture capital firm Anderson Howards, and Jump Crypto. We are keeping our foot on the gas, said Fair Share essentially spokesperson Josh. With the midterms on the horizon, we are poised to continue essentially backing candidates who are committed to advancing innovation, growing jobs, and enacting essentially thoughtful, responsible regulations, and opposing those who play politics and stand in the way of the voters or support. Essentially, our support is for crypto. And with crypto, which also attempted to influence US voters in 2024, roughly 270 lawmakers in essentially the 119th sessions of Congress were pro-crypto, with Republican essentially parties taking majority control in the House of Representatives and Senate. The FEC essentially showed Fair Share spent roughly $131 million to support 2024 candidates in primaries and general elections, many of whom essentially went on to win their seats. It's unclear what impact millions of dollars from crypto industries funneled through PACs could have in 2026 midterms, essentially US midterms, but many experts have suggested that the Fair Share affiliates defend American jobs, spending more than $40 million on ads to support Republicans like Bernie Sanders, or essentially for US Senator in Ohio, that could have contributed to Sherrod Brown's loss. And Republicans currently hold essentially 218 to 215 majority in the House. And with Can everybody see me? Because I got a notification, it said signal dropped. The screen just went dark. Can everyone see me? On my end, because I got a notification, it said signal dropped. By the way, happy Pisces, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Yep, okay, good. So, yes, okay, good. So as far as we know, crypto companies are not slowing down in any sort of way whatsoever. They are still funding essentially campaigns. They're still funding Republicans, which is great to see. And it is donations all coming in from Ripple and Coinbase, mostly compared to Kraken and Crypto.com, to be fairly honest. And these are like, factual information that anybody can go and check out and see how much Ripple has donated, how much Coinbase has donated to get all these Republicans into the seats they're sitting in right now, which just shows essentially how much influence these companies are going to have on the future of the United States when it comes to regulations and policies, which is amazing to see, honestly, because we want Ripple to do incredibly well, essentially inside the United States, and having that much control over the donations they've been handing out is great to see, and they're not slowing down whatsoever. But moving on essentially to Illinois. So putting that to one side, essentially politicians still getting fundings from crypto companies. Great to see that funding should never stop. We're going to talk about Bitcoin reserves, which is one of the biggest topics still. Like, are we going to be having Bitcoin reserves, or is it going to be a basket of cryptocurrencies? And is the United States going to have Bitcoin reserves or basket of cryptocurrencies? Are states in America going to be having essentially Bitcoin reserves only? Because, for example, Texas is filing in for a Bitcoin reserve only, and then you have essentially a few other states just filing in for Bitcoin reserves. And another one today is essentially Illinois. Illinois to explore a Bitcoin reserve fund has just came out today. And a significant essentially developments, Illinois has boldly essentially moved to integrate Bitcoin into its state finances. The state representative, John, proposed creating essentially a Bitcoin reserve fund bill called House Bill 1844 or HB 1844. This initiative essentially seeks to create a framework for holding Bitcoin in reserves in the state treasury. It is poised for the growing number of U.S. states to explore crypto assets as a part of their financial strategies. HB 1844 would allow the Illinois state storage handling. Now, bid for at least 5 years before any transfers and sales or conversions could occur. So essentially, Illinois does essentially start purchasing Bitcoin, minimum they're holding for 5 years before they start ending up essentially selling it. This long-term approach ensures that the state exercises caution when dealing with essentially volatile crypto assets, reinforcing the fund's essentially stability. The bill would also allow Illinois residents and governments essentially to donate Bitcoin to the fund, making Illinois one of the first states to explore voluntary Bitcoin contributions. This structure aims to add a dimension to the state's public finance strategy. The HB 1844 is essentially an offline, highly secured method. Says regular audits and reports will be required, providing transparency into the fund's performance, any security risk essentially encountered. The state's treasurer will also be empowered to establish necessary rules and protocols to manage the funds. This includes secure storage, transaction protocols, and reporting standards. This level of oversight will also ensure that Illinois can confidently navigate the complexities of handling digital assets. Illinois is not the only state that has considered a Bitcoin reserve. A surge of proposals from various states has accelerated recently. This is particularly true after President Trump essentially returned to the White House. Now, in just January alone, at least 6 states, including Arizona, Texas, New Hampshire, and North Dakota, introduced an advanced or similar bill to this. The growing interest reflects a shift towards digital assets as a potential cornerstone of essentially a state-level financing plan. Now, I've previously said that a Bitcoin reserve doesn't make sense. I said a crypto reserve makes a lot more sense. And I've been saying this for the longest time because it just makes a lot more sense, especially for states that want to get ahead and have a very secure, essentially, portfolio. A crypto reserve will always make more sense. And it's so basic if you really just think about it. If anybody in Wall Street, if you ask anybody in Wall Street, they will always tell you to diversify your portfolio. Never essentially put all your eggs in one basket is what they'll tell you. Every single trader in Wall Street, forget about traders online on social media, just professional traders from London Stock Exchange, New York Stock Exchange, Wall Street in general, or any other essentially high-profile traders around the world from all these stock exchanges, they will tell you the most basic thing, which is diversify your portfolio. Never put all your eggs in one basket. And creating a Bitcoin reserve is putting all your eggs in one basket. And when things go south, what are you left with? Nothing. But if you diversify and you create a crypto reserve instead of a Bitcoin reserve, if one of those eggs goes bad, at least the others will protect your assets or investments or your profits. And on that topic, essentially, Utah, for example, has decided to create a crypto reserve. You see, Utah has brain cells because they decided, you know what, it's not maybe a great idea to create a Bitcoin reserve. Utah decided a crypto reserve makes a lot more sense. So here it is. Utah takes a bold step towards blockchain adoption with cryptocurrency investment bill. Now, I talked about Utah previously where they thought about, essentially, should we create a crypto reserve or not? Well, now they got to a stage where it's come to voting. A major government committee moved essentially Utah closer to becoming the top government bank. Right, we're back. Can anybody sing? I don't know what's happening. I'll be honest. Yep, all good. Great. So, as I was saying before, whatever that was happened, Utah has decided to create a crypto reserve instead of essentially a Bitcoin reserve. So here it is. Don't know what happened before. Sorry about that. I don't know why it went dark all of a sudden. The platform that I'm using, Restream, to do this. A major government essentially committee moved Utah closer to becoming a top government-backed cryptocurrency investor with its endorsements of a bill to invest public funds in digital assets. The Utah essentially House Committee on Economic Developments voted 8-1 in favor of the House bill. 230 strong legislative supports expressed a blockchain and digital innovation amendments in which the state could participate through digital asset investments. The bill would allow the state treasurer to divert up to 5% of their public funds to digital assets, eligible for investments if the market valuation surpasses $50 billion. The digital asset bill by Representative essentially Jordan identifies essentially the main regulatory guidelines for the retention, management, and compliance of the state's digital assets. Furthermore, essentially under specific conditions, it also provides opportunities for staking and lending out the treasury, potentially unlocking new revenue flowing into Utah. He also tweeted out after the committee gave its approvals, so Utah is going to go ahead and become pretty much the first United States state to offer a crypto reserve, not a Bitcoin reserve, but a crypto reserve in America is happening. And the first state to do this is Utah. Thrilled, this was essentially what was announced. Thrilled to announce HB, the state of Utah, to invest into digital assets. While Utah is the 11th state to introduce similar legislations, we will be the first to pass it. Utah will be the first state in America to pass essentially a crypto reserve. Utah continues to lead the nation in blockchain and digital innovation. The bill will, if passed, be sent to Governor Spencer, who has already shown his openness to blockchain technology. State lawmakers essentially have previously kept their allegiance to blockchain and digital innovation and signaling essential legislations that implemented to blockchain and digital innovations and task forces. Arizona, Wyoming, and 10 other states have also legislations considering similar legislations, but Utah is becoming a front runner for blending blockchain into workday world of public finance. And Satoshi's Action Fund chief Dennis Porter also praised Utah's essentially leadership, saying it was only the essentially second U.S. state to move a bill of this kind through the committee stage. The bill also makes provisions to secure the money and the process, combined with being able to use digital versions of assets secured by the state regulated custodians and essentially ETF products or other approved safe storage solutions as well. The only thing the state can essentially now do is hold its digital assets in a format. It also would also protect the use of cryptocurrencies and barring states and local essentially governments from banning cryptocurrency payments for legally permitted goods and services. The bill also cleared the House Committee and Representatives, a big hurdle to be cleared before it can be signed into law as it still must be approved by the Senate, with the state actively pro-crypto and the governor with the history of supporting blockchain in general. Experts in the industry see Utah leading the new wave of government and crypto in social investments, and it could be a model for other states looking to introduce blockchain technology into public physical systems as a bill progresses. The legislation, if passed, might only be a reinforcement in terms of Utah's economic positions, but also make the technology even more appealing, and might help to spread the digital assets use case across the country even more. Utah's HB 230 is a big step towards bringing digital assets onto the books with the state investments because of Utah's strong legislative support, and the governor being very pro-crypto. It's poised to lead the country in blockchain innovations and set a precedent for other states to follow. So, you know the interesting part? This whole Bitcoin reserve, Bitcoin reserve, Bitcoin reserve, yeah, it turns out it's going to turn into a crypto reserve because it makes a lot more sense. Now, there are about 6 to 7 states in America who have all applied for a Bitcoin reserve, and only one has applied for a crypto reserve, and that one is Utah. And guess which one has been spearheaded to be approved first out of all the states? The one that's essentially applied for a crypto reserve, not a Bitcoin reserve. All the other American states have all applied for a Bitcoin reserve, and they're just moving along slowly with their bill. While as the only state in America who applied for a crypto reserve, not a Bitcoin, crypto reserve, has spearheaded through everything. And they are the first one to be accepted by the looks of it. And if this happens, this will set definitely a precedent for other states to follow their footsteps. So if their crypto reserve gets approved, I'm guessing all the other states are going to create also a crypto reserve, not a Bitcoin reserve. So first we had the United States of America, who's thinking about creating a Bitcoin reserve, which slowly turned into a crypto reserve. Now it's also the states who are going from Bitcoin reserve to crypto reserve. Now they do have one essentially rule in place, which is whatever crypto project they go for their crypto reserve, it has to have a bigger market cap of $50 billion, which we're good to go on XRP. I'm guessing the reason why they did this is because America wants to go for American projects. And Bitcoin, unfortunately, is not really an American project now, is it? Not saying they won't buy Bitcoin, but I'm saying it's a crypto reserve. The Bitcoin maxes are not going to be happy about that one. But on the topic of Bitcoin reserve, Norway, one of Norway's largest, essentially, wealth management funds is thinking about doing a Bitcoin reserve. So here it is. Norway's largest sovereign wealth, essentially, fund has initiated a significant, essentially, indirect investment in Bitcoin, amounting to not that much. Well, pretty much it is quite a lot, to be fairly honest. It is their first investment. They put in essentially $356.7 million. Research by K33 indicates that the fund's Bitcoin reserves are expected to increase to 3,821 tokens by close of essentially 2024, when the data came out today, essentially, representing a remarkable 153% rise compared to their previous year. Back in 2020, this Norway Reserve Fund had just essentially 796 Bitcoins in their holdings, showcasing its evolving strategy in the cryptocurrency sector. Beyond this indirect Bitcoin holdings, NBIM has essentially stakes in several public companies linked to cryptocurrency markets. By the end of 2024, it anticipates essentially owning approximately 0.72% of MicroStrategy and 1.1% of Tesla, as well as interest in firms like Coinbase, Metaplanet, Mora Holdings. These ventures are essentially a massive part of the crypto space in general, and NBIM's strategy of essentially assessing the potentials of digital currencies. Recognized as Norway's government's global fund, and essentially NBIM utilizes revenues from national oils and gas sectors for investments. By the end of 2024, the fund is projected to reports of having annual profits of $222.4 billion, Obviously, we don't know the annual reports of 2025 because 2025 has just pretty much started, but largely driven by advancements in AI technology. NBIM's indirect Bitcoin investments reflects a strict response to essentially the performance of cryptocurrency markets, and the fund's portfolio is increasingly weighted towards sectors that include digital assets. Current market conditions are also being closely monitored by the NBIM's investments and philosophies aligned with global trends in technology and finance. Vettel Lud from K33 noted that the upward trajectory of assets similar to cryptocurrencies directly impacts their weight within their portfolio, while NBIM typically reaffirms from essentially commenting on specific investment strategies. It sustained its interest in digital currency sector, highlights its commitments to long-term growth, even amidst the volatility inside the market space. Market participants are essentially kneeling and observing NBIM's investment maneuvers as they reflect a broader essentially trend in global finance. The fund's increasing engagement of digital currency signals a noteworthy shift in assets and management and strategies. So, one of Norway's largest fund managers, the data reports that came out today that they did invest up to essentially $356.7 million in Bitcoin holdings now they have, which is an incredible amount to have. But it's also nice to see that more companies essentially going towards this whole digital asset space. But they're also not just going towards Bitcoin, but they're going also towards MicroStrategy. They're going towards Coinbase shares. They're going towards Mark Holdings and a few other essentially mega corporations inside the crypto sector. And their main source of investments and profits comes from gas and natural oil and essentially natural gas. Now, moving on essentially from the whole crypto reserves, essentially space, Bitcoin reserves, crypto reserves, and so on, to the European Central Bank, but keeping relatively topic to Bitcoin reserves. Because the European Central Bank has done two things today. One, the European Central Bank has said they're doing rate cuts, which is good. Rate cuts is what we need. Rate cuts are indications that traditional economy is not doing too well, which means essentially everybody will go towards alternative assets, in this case being crypto assets. That's why whenever we do have rate cuts, it's always a good scene, except the last previous rate cut that we had when he started talking bad about the crypto asset space and so on. But in general, the European Central Bank has done two things today. One, they said they're going to do rate cuts. The second thing they said is that Czech Republic is never allowed to hold Bitcoin in their central banks. Yesterday, I revealed on this live that the man in charge of Czech Republic's central bank has decided to essentially approve the idea of Bitcoin in terms of a reserve for the central bank. And they also announced that Czech Republic is never allowed to hold Bitcoin in their central banks. And here it is. The European Central Bank today decided to cut its three key interest rates by 25 basis points. Good news. This brings the deposit essentially facility rate to 2.75%, the main reinforcing operations rate essentially to 2.90%, and the marginal lending rate to 3.15%. The changes essentially are to take effect in February 5th, 2025, according to the ECB's announcement, the European Central Bank's announcements. Reportedly, this decision is meant to help them hit their 2% inflation target, which is pretty much what every jurisdiction around the world is pretty much trying to hit right now. The European Central Bank says that de-inflation is on track and inflation is behaving as predicted by their staff and projections and expected to settle near 2% this year. But for now, inflation pressures are still dragging along, and because wages and prices in certain sectors are taking their sweet time adjusting to earlier price surges, the Governing Council admitted this delay through. They also said that the wage growth is finally coming down and corporate profits are essentially cushioning some inflationary heat. Now, if you think these rate cuts mean essentially borrowing is suddenly cheap and easy, think again. Businesses and households are still going to be feeling the squeeze inside the EU. Yes, new loans might come with lower rates, but many existing loans are going to get rolled out at a much more higher cost due to their previous hikes. Now, what else did the essentially European Central Bank confirmed today was this. The European Central Bank confirmed today that the monetary policy remains restrictive. However, they believe that as people's real income essentially improve and the painful effects of rate hikes fade, demand will eventually pick up. The Governing Council also made it clear that it's not locking itself into any particular plan for the future in terms of rate changes, and decisions will depend on data they get before each meeting. The European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde also reinforced this during her post-reports press conference today, saying that the rate adjustments will be based on incoming, essentially economic financial data, along with how well the current policies are working out for the people and essentially for the country in general. Now, the European Central Bank's balance sheet is also getting leaner as well. The central bank is pulling back on the asset purchases as well. Both of the asset purchases program, APP, and the pandemic essentially emergency purchase program, PEPPP, and portfolios are also being allowed to decline at the periodic rates. They are no longer essentially reinvesting the principal payments from maturing securities under these programs. And on the top of that, banks repaid their last essential remaining loans that they had borrowed under the ECB's targeted long-term essential enforcements and operations, and this brings their part of the ECB's balance sheet normalizing process to an official close. The Governing Council also reminded the markets of their safety net that's going on right now, the Transmission Protection Instrument, the TPI, essentially. This tool is designed to stop any essentially market conditions that could disrupt the flow of monetary policies across the Eurozone. Basically, they're ready to intervene if things go haywire. Meanwhile, adding on top of all of that, essentially the European Central Bank, getting closer to their target of 2% in terms of inflation, and that, inflation is slowing down in the EU, and that we're going to be having a rate cut essentially happening in February 5th, 2025, essentially this year, February 5th, rate cuts coming out the EU. So a lot of positivity on that end, and how essentially the EU is going to survive and not go towards that economic bubble crisis situation. And on top of all that, very long speech she did, she also added that meanwhile, the Czech Republic National Bank Governor, Alice, suggested adding Bitcoin to his country's official reserves, which then Christine Lagarde said was quick to shut it down. And she said, I am confident that Bitcoin won't enter the reserves of any central bank at the General Council, she said during today's press conference. So the idea of a Bitcoin reserve happening inside of the EU, by the looks of it from Christine Lagarde, is never going to happen. But the idea of a crypto reserve is still on the board. Even though the Czech Republic doesn't use the euro, which is true, the central bank is a part of their central bank. The Czech Republic Central Bank is still a part of the European Central Bank in general, and the General Council, which advises EU member states on financial policies. Now, Alice's comments made essentially caused a stir in financial circles in terms of central banks having historically kept their distance from cryptocurrencies. Czech Republic's speech yesterday coming out and saying that we want to create a Bitcoin reserve, and they're going to be purchasing a certain amount and so on, which they also revealed how much they're going to be purchasing, did not go too well with the European Central Bank in any sort of a way. They are essentially, they said that they said something that they should pretty much take back, and that other countries inside the EU should not be following their footsteps in creating a Bitcoin reserve. That the idea of a Bitcoin reserve is just a Bitcoin reserve is never going to happen in the EU. How ironic. It's never going to happen anywhere else as well, to be fairly honest. It's just going to be a crypto reserve. Bitcoin, after all, was created by a rebellion against the traditional banking system. Christine Lagarde essentially said that she spoke with the central bank's governor, essentially from Czech Republic, and the central bank's reserves should be liquid, secure, and safe, she added, and not in Bitcoin. The Czech National Bank hasn't completely closed the door on new ideas, though. They announced today that their board approved analysis to explore diversifying their reserves with other asset classes. However, they made no mentions of Bitcoin in that plan. You see how things change? Every country thought about doing a Bitcoin reserve. Once upon a time, Trump went on stage and said, we're going to do a national strict Bitcoin reserve. And then slowly time passed. That Bitcoin reserve idea turned into a crypto reserve, which makes a lot more sense. A lot more sense to have a crypto reserve. Which then the executive order came out in the United States, where everybody that was a Bitcoin maxi thought, yes, this is it, including Michael Saylor, that we're going to get a Bitcoin reserve inside the United States. And then the executive order comes out and it says, digital currencies instead. We're going to have basically a basket of cryptocurrencies as a reserve. So the idea of Bitcoin reserve pretty much died out. And then states in America started doing, we're going to do a Bitcoin reserve. Texas and, Pennsylvania and all these states are coming out. We're going to do a Bitcoin reserve. But their paperwork is moving a bit slow. Utah comes out and says, we're going to do a crypto reserve. Their paperwork moves fast. Czech Republic comes out and says, we're going to do a Bitcoin reserve. Christian Lagarde, European Central Bank, says, no, you're not. Shut it down. So today, the essentially Czech Republic Bank comes out and says, you know what? We're going to do diversification instead in terms of reserve assets. And that speech didn't really include Bitcoin now, did it? Every country is going to do a basket of cryptocurrencies as a reserve, but they just want to know which ones. And I'm guessing they have a clue of which ones they want to go for. And it's going to be American companies, the ones that they choose. Every country that is thinking about doing a reserve asset is going to do a basket of cryptocurrency. So, and the assets they're going to be choosing, in most cases, a high percentage, extremely high percentage of 99%, they're going to be choosing essentially American companies, American blockchain companies. And we all know who those American blockchain companies are. And it's not Bitcoin or Ethereum. Now saying that, it doesn't mean that they won't buy Bitcoin or Ethereum. But what I am saying is that no longer Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to be playing the main character, is what I'm trying to say. That other assets are going to be on the same level playing field as those other two assets. But it's interesting, no? Czech Republic comes out yesterday. We're going to do a Bitcoin reserve. The European Central Bank comes out today. No, you're not. Shut it down. Czech Republic comes out today. We're going to do a diversification reserve in terms of digital reserves instead. But the Bitcoin maxes are still going around and telling other people online that they're going to be doing a Bitcoin reserve. Czech Republic is doing a Bitcoin reserve, which is a lie. They're still doing that today, even though the news has changed. So it seems like crypto reserve is what's going to be happening worldwide rather than Bitcoin reserve, which is extremely beneficial for people who are holding American blockchain companies. Assets like XRP or XLM or HBOB. There's a few assets. It's quite a bit of action. Now, Kraken is what we're going to talk about next. So this is excellent news, honestly, for everybody that's holding American blockchain projects. Excellent news. It shows you that the European Central Bank is open to the idea, but just not a Bitcoin reserve. They're open to the idea of a crypto reserve. Is it because they saw Trump sign an executive order that didn't mention Bitcoin reserve? Probably. Now, the next news we are going to be talking about tonight's live, moving on from this whole crypto reserve, Bitcoin reserve, to Kraken Exchange and the SEC. But before we talk about Kraken Exchange and the SEC, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. And I also did a new thing yesterday where I said, if you're somebody that's inside the crypto space and you're watching this for the first time ever, or if you're a regular person, if you're a regular CMF member that's watching this, and you do have, a question in the back of your head that you always wanted to ask, go for it now. If you do have any questions that you're still stuck on, you don't, there's a part of the crypto space you don't understand, go for it right now inside the comment section, put your questions down. I'll be more than happy to help you out. Is what I asked yesterday. I'm going to ask it every night, essentially, when we do these lives. So just in case, if anybody does have any questions and they're too shy to say it, no question is, stupid in any sort of a way. And there's a lot of people that are still beginners inside the crypto space, and I'm here to help. So if you do have any questions, don't be shy in any sort of a way. And if you do have any question in the back of your mind that you always want to ask, go for it right now inside the comment section. Now, while you're putting those questions down, let's go inside the comment section. And let me see what's going on here. And then we'll go straight into the next news, which is regarding Kraken and SEC, which is quite major as well. But let's see what's going on inside the comment section first. Good day, Miles and CMF. Mike, good to see you as well. How you doing, brother? How you been? Canada is sweetening. Our dollar is now worth 69 to half a cent American, and this is before the potential tariffs from Trump. But suddenly, Canada wakes up and rethink they better clean up their act. That's great to see that Canada's doing that. I wish more countries would follow America's footsteps, to be fairly honest. Donald Trump is doing an amazing job. Honestly, he's doing an amazing job on fixing the US. And I hope that other countries will follow Donald Trump's footsteps, because America is going towards, this golden age, which I think other countries should follow in suit. Our prime minister is stepping down. What a joke. This country is at this extent they want to blame Trump. We're in trillions of dollars of debt, as well as we're one-tenth of the size of America. Facts. What's happening in Canada is a joke, I'll be honest as well, regarding Justin Trudeau essentially leaving, decided to pack up his bags and completely leave. And, he put the country in debt, and there's nobody else to blame. It's interesting. Every politician from any country, from any jurisdiction around the world, they just want to blame Trump for unnecessary reasons, for everything. Even inside the US, obviously, the previous administration, the circus freaks from Biden's administration ruined the country completely. And then everything that's happening now, they're trying to say, oh, Trump did it. Well, Trump wasn't in power. Biden was. And apparently Biden was doing a great job. So what happened to that speech? The news was telling everybody. Now that Trump's at the power, they're saying, oh, well, when are the egg prices going to be fixed? Oh, when is this going to be fixed? Oh, when is that going to be fixed? But beforehand, the news was saying, everything's great. Biden's doing a great job. But now that Trump's in power, they're saying, oh, when is this going to be fixed? When is that going to be fixed? I thought it was already fixed. I thought Biden did a great job, but apparently not so much, because now that we have a Trump presidency, apparently, Trump needs to fix all these things, and he should do, and he is going to. But I just wished that they admitted these things before as well, because it was so obvious that essentially a lot of things were going wrong inside the US, but they were pretending it's good. And now they're all coming out and saying, oh, well, it was very bad, and when are we going to fix this? When are we going to fix that? Which is very stupid, to be fair. But also in the UK as well, the UK, the British government helped essentially, which was the stupidest mistake they could have possibly ever done. They helped Kamala Harris' campaign. The British government helped Kamala Harris's campaign. They sent people to get votes in for Kamala Harris. And now, obviously, the British government looks bad because Trump became president. Now, what are they going to do? Is the British government going to step down from their stupidity, or are they going to raise it to another level? By the looks of it, they're going to raise it to another level, because the British government does not want to slow down and criticizing Trump's every movement. But it's ironic, because while as America is getting fixed day by day, this was the interesting part. America is getting fixed, and I mean fixed, which if you saw America, when Biden was in power, you would have thought, yeah, America's done. It's never going to be fixed. Forget about it. But then you have a Trump presidency, and you're seeing with your own two eyes that day by day, America is actually getting better, day by day. Since Trump became president, it's getting better. And the interesting part is, every prime minister or every president around the world, every prime minister, every president, or any politician around the world who is criticizing Trump, essentially criticizing America, I think those presidents and prime ministers and politicians should look at their own countries, because their own countries are not doing great. Canada essentially decided to criticize Trump's movements. Look at Canada compared to the US now. The UK decided to criticize Trump's movements. Look at the UK now. Look at essentially the US now. Look, the EU trying to criticize Trump's movements. Look at the EU. France is struggling, starting on the last leg on their real estate market space. Germany is closing down factories, which they only rely on the automotive industry. All these countries that are criticizing Trump's movements and saying, oh, he's doing a terrible job. Maybe they should look at their own countries, because the US is doing 10 times better, while other essentially countries that are criticizing the US's movements or Trump's movements are doing worse. Maybe, get off your high horses and realize that Trump is actually fixing America and fixing the world slowly. Because all these countries, were jumping on the bandwagon of Biden's administration of circus freaks. Whenever they said anything, Biden's administration would come out and go, the sky is purple. And every country will go, yep, the sky is purple. Trump comes out and says, nope, the sky is not purple, it's blue. Every country goes, nope, I don't believe it. How about you look up? It's the easiest metaphor I can give. So, honestly, all these countries that have been criticizing Trump's movements, they should look at their own countries. Because America is getting fixed day by day. And if you looked at America under Biden's administration, it looked like there was no hope. But as I've said previously, it only takes one man to change the course of history. And that man was Trump. He's definitely changed the course of history. I just wish more countries would follow his footsteps. Hi, Miles and CMF. Good to see you as well, Stormy. How you doing? How you been? Yo, how you doing? Lol just sold half of my Ethereum for more XRP. Let's go, Butch. Yeah, all good. Let's go. They're getting signals. Good morning, Miles and CMF. Ghost Runner, good to see you. How you doing? Crypto reserves, let's go. Yeah, facts. That's what's going to be happening, honestly, rather than Bitcoin reserve. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Good to see you as well. Troy, how you doing? How you been? Norway has a lot of oil. Yep. Hi from Malaysia. Shakira, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? We've got so much liquid gold under our feet here. Drill, baby, drill. Let's go, JP. Hi, Miles and family. Alex, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Canada is sweating. Canada is screwing up and calling Trump the enemy. They're so lost. We need Trump here. Yeah, we need Trump everywhere, to be honest. Stormy, let's go. As I said previously, and I'll always say this, thank God Trump won. Honestly, thank God Trump won. Now, Kraken. Kraken reinstates crypto stakings after a $30 million settlement with the SEC. So, one of the major things essentially happening was the SEC case with Gary Gensler being the biggest factor of, suing Kraken, Crypto.com, Ripple, Coinbase, and so on. Well, it seems like one of these cases has been dropped finally, which was Kraken versus SEC. After the Securities and Exchange Commission ordered Kraken to close its essentially United States staking platform back in 2023, the exchange has reopened cryptocurrency staking specific tokens in select states now. Kraken has reintroduced cryptocurrency staking services for customers in 39 eligible states, nearly 2 years after settling a case with the Securities and Exchange Commission. In February 2023, Kraken agreed to pay essentially a $30 million fine to resolve their federal charges, essentially alleging securities violations. Securities violations was a big thing, essentially with Gary Gensler, even though it was a complete load of BS. Part of the deal ordered essentially crypto exchanges to shutter its staking as services and businesses and essentially end staking for American clients. The new business offering via Kraken Pro will allow US users to stake 17 digital assets, including Ethereum, Solana, and Cardano, and a lot more others. Additionally, the service will adopt a bounded essentially staking model, which requires users to lock up their tokens for a period of time. The lockup duration will vary based on the individual's blockchain network, and Kraken also stated that the slashing insurance will be applied as well, and offering a greater risk management for users. The relaunch of staking services inside the United States, despite their previous crackdown by the Securities Exchange Commission, and may signal a shifting regulatory essential conditions. President Donald Trump's return to the White House has brought a crypto-focused policy agenda aimed essentially at establishing clearer rules for digital asset industries. Early signs suggest a starkly different approach from the previous administration, with pro-cryptocurrency officials nominated for key regulatory positions. Furthermore, Kraken's decision to reintroduce staking could indicate progress towards regulatory clarity regarding yield-generating services. For years, the Securities and Exchange Commission has taken a firm stance against staking, essentially classifying the on-chain business models as unregistered securities and offerings. However, with new essential administrations in place and the growing calls for comprehensive digital asset regulations, this stance may essentially change soon. It's great to see, honestly, Kraken Exchange coming back into the scene, not mostly because it's, Kraken Exchange coming back in the scene, but also the other aspect, which is exchanges are coming back to the US, is what I'm trying to mostly say, that the SEC has definitely simmered itself, and that these are indications of more cases that is going to be dropped, because Kraken would have never in their entire lifetime reintroduced staking or any sort of services back into the US, because they know they would have got sued by Gary Gensler if Kamala Harris would have won. But because Kamala Harris lost, thank God Kamala Harris lost, and Trump has won, that's essentially Kraken is coming and offering these services. This is an indication that Coinbase Exchange's case is going to be dropped with the SEC as well. Ripple's case will be dropped with the SEC as well, and a lot more of the cases are going to be dropped. This is the first one, Kraken. Now, El Salvador. El Salvador was one of the first countries to create some sort of a Bitcoin reserve, back when no other country wanted to touch digital assets. And El Salvador essentially made it mandatory for a time period to essentially made it mandatory that all merchants in El Salvador have to accept Bitcoin as a currency. So Bitcoin became legal tender in El Salvador a while ago, essentially, and that every merchant had to accept Bitcoin no matter what. And that law came to an end today. No longer it is mandatory for El Salvador merchants to accept Bitcoin in any sort of a way. Now, this pressure came from the International Monetary Fund because they owe money. El Salvador has essentially owes a lot of money to the International Monetary Fund, and they came to a decision where, you know, if they want to come to some sort of a payment agreement, that El Salvador has to do something for the International Monetary Fund, and the requirement was remove Bitcoin as mandatory payments. So here it is. El Salvador's Legislative Assembly has amended its Bitcoin law. By the way, this was the first Bitcoin accepting country that is now no longer a first Bitcoin accepting country because they've removed it completely, making it optional essentially now for merchants to accept Bitcoin as a payment. This change aligns with conditions set by the International Monetary Fund for their $1.4 billion loan aimed at bolstering the nation's economy. El Salvador made history essentially in September 2021 by becoming the first country to adopt Bitcoin as a legal tender alongside their US dollars. The initiative essentially championed the president of El Salvador sought to enhance financial inclusion and the economic growth of El Salvador. Now, you know, being fair to El Salvador, he did a great job. The president of essentially El Salvador has done an amazing job to, you know, fixing their country as well. However, the requirements for all businesses to accept Bitcoin face criticism due to cryptocurrencies' price volatility, and the population limited understandings of digital currencies made it worse. The recent legislative reform addresses these concerns by allowing businesses to choose whether to accept Bitcoin, according to Yahoo. Additionally, the government will no longer accept Bitcoin for tax payments either, and plans to reduce its involvements in Bitcoin-related activities, including scaling essentially backed on the use of state-sponsored essentially the Chivo wallet app, which is essentially a wallet app, a Bitcoin wallet app that the state that El Salvador created, the government of El Salvador created, for people to store their Bitcoins on from the retail section to be able to get rewards from the retail section in terms of Bitcoin and so on. That has completely been removed. These adjustments will be pivotal in securing the International Monetary Fund loan, which aims to stabilize El Salvador's economy. The International Monetary Fund had previously expressed about El Salvador's essential Bitcoin adoption, citing risk to financial stability and consumer protection. By making Bitcoin acceptance voluntary and essentially limiting government participation, El Salvador seeks to address these concerns while retaining Bitcoin's legal status. So, the first ever country that was a Bitcoin country is no longer a Bitcoin country. There's pretty much no country that's a Bitcoin country now, because it was El Salvador. And then there was a few cities around the world, one of them being in Switzerland, Laguna City in Switzerland, which is a Bitcoin city as well. But as a Bitcoin country, yeah, that's the end of it. Apologies about that. And they did that because they wanted essentially a loan from the International Monetary Fund, which is more valuable to them than, you know, forcing every merchant to accept Bitcoin. Makes a lot more sense. Now, moving on essentially from El Salvador to Tether, but also relatable to Bitcoin. Tether being the biggest essentially stablecoin in the world, USDT, the biggest digital stablecoin in the world, USDT, has been criticized for a while now. They've been criticized from the EU multiple times. They've been criticized by Canada. And also, there was a person that could have backed Tether in a very high-profile seat under Trump's presidency. But even him yesterday came out and said that he has no ties or relations to Tether in any sort of a way. And that was Tether's only way in inside the United States. And by the looks of it, Tether is day by day, USDT is day by day getting pushed out in the most simplest way to put it. And El Salvador will become a CBDC country just like every other country. Facts, what Kamal has said. One of the other reasons that I did forget to mention, Kamal, thank you so much for saying that. One of the other reasons essentially regarding El Salvador, you know, not accepting Bitcoin is because El Salvador is going to become a CBDC country just like any other country around the world. Thank you, Kamal, for that as well. USDT is not happy. They've came out essentially and said to the EU once again that they're doing the wrong thing and that the EU should, accept USDT as the #1 stablecoin, and this is not right. So here it is. Tether responds to EU's regulations as the exchange, essentially as all their exchanges prepare for USDT delisting. Tether voiced their concerns over the European Union's cryptocurrency regulations because yesterday, Crypto.com, being one of the biggest exchanges out there, also announced that they're delisting USDT for EU citizens because they're preparing themselves for the MiCA regulations inside the EU. So Crypto.com confirmed essentially that it will begin removing USDT and 9 other tokens that are also stablecoins from its European platform starting January 31st, which is essentially today. And one of them being USDT. A Tether spokesperson criticized the regulatory shift, calling it a rushed decision that lacks clarity. And it is disappointing to see that the rushed actions brought on by statements which do little to clarify the basis for such moves. That was a statement made by Tether. Tether is essentially stating that this lacks clarity. Well, do you know what Tether lacks? Transparency. Because the rules are very simple for the EU and for Canada and a few other jurisdictions around the world. If you want to be a stablecoin, prove you have reserves. It's very simple. But Tether doesn't want to prove, so you're not going to get approved. It's very simple. You don't prove you have essentially reserves backing your stablecoin to a 1-to-1 ratio, then you're not going to be approved, essentially one of the biggest market spaces around the world. But Tether tries to make it look like the EU is the one that's essentially in the wrong in this scenario. The EU is not in the wrong. They're actually in the right. You're in the wrong for not proving transparency. It's very simple. You want to become the EU, hold 60% of your reserves in EU banks because USDC did it and they're still standing strong. Now, as we have consistently expressed, some aspects of the MiCA make operations of the EU licensed stablecoins more complex and potentially introduce new risks. There's also another speech that Tether made. They're trying to say that the EU introducing these regulations, and this is a statement they made today essentially, that they're fed up. Crypto.com being the other exchange that's delisting essentially today, Tether's being fed up. They came out with more speeches today and they had a conversation with Cointelegraph. And they said, by the EU doing this, they're introducing more risk. What risk? The risk is Tether USDT that has no reserves. So you're the risk in this scenario, Tether. MiCA mandates that non-compliant stablecoins will be fully restricted by the end of quarter 1 2025. Through exchanges will allow limited sell options until March 31st. Despite its concerns, Tether acknowledged the EU's efforts to establish a structured framework, stating that it remains committed to compliance while advancing essentially new technologies. The company is finalizing its European strategy with plans to introduce MiCA compliant initiatives like Hardon, which, by the way, if you didn't know, Tether doesn't want to show transparency for USDT to the EU. But instead, they decided to buy out another company that is already MiCA compliant and use their tokens to get back into the EU, which just raises more alarms for USDT. Because if Tether is willing to buy out another company that is already approved by the MiCA to be inside the EU that has 2 operating stablecoins, why not just approve USDT instead? Why not just show transparency and get USDT applied and essentially get an MiCA license? Why are you buying out another company and boosting their stablecoin when you could just boost your own? Honestly, the amount of questions that raises, the amount of alarms that raises for USDT's backing is crazy. Because they're willing to do all of that, but not show transparency for their own stablecoin. Tether also highlighted essentially a key difference in stablecoin demand, noting that while USDT is widely used, essentially in emerging markets, its role in Europe essentially remains minimal, which is an absolute load of BS. Tether is saying, it's okay, we're getting kicked out of the EU. I mean, it's a small market space anyways. The EU is a small market space. Sure it is. Coinbase also essentially delisted 8 tokens to comply with MiCA essentially regulations, and it essentially indicated that it may reinstate assets that achieve compliance in the future. Meanwhile, Tether's plans to move its headquarters and subsidiaries to El Salvador following its acquisition of a license to operate as a digital asset service provider and stablecoin issuer in the country. Tether highlighted El Salvador's forward-thinking policies, favorable regulatory environment, and growing Bitcoin-savvy community. Unfortunately, El Salvador is no longer a Bitcoin-savvy community because they just removed their essentially, Bitcoin mandatory merchants. That Bitcoin mandatory has to be accepted as legal tender. And that was one of the things that Tether was banking on, essentially, El Salvador being very Bitcoin friendly, Bitcoin mandatory, and so on. And well, apparently that's not happening anymore, according to El Salvador today. Tether highlighted El Salvador's forward-thinking policies and in terms of their financial freedom and innovation, showing its commitment to helping people worldwide through decentralized tech. Reports suggest that Tether's COO acquired real estate and became neutralized citizen of El Salvador in 2024 as well. So Tether has been banking on the idea of putting their headquarters in El Salvador because El Salvador is Bitcoin friendly, Bitcoin country, Bitcoin mandatory. By the looks of it, not anymore. It's really not looking good for Tether, is it? Whatever USDT does and touches, it just goes south. And guess who's going to take their place? Now, what we're going to be talking about next, essentially, moving on from USDT Tether, they're not really having a good year right now. This is probably the worst year USDT is experiencing. Getting delisted from the EU, El Salvador being the country they want to move to, and then suddenly they're removing their Bitcoin license. Grayscale is what we're going to talk about next. Grayscale launches Bitcoin Miners ETF. So we've seen a mixture of different types of ETFs come out when it was essentially related to Bitcoin. Today, also a Bitcoin and Ethereum ETF was approved by the SEC. A bitwise mixture of Bitcoin and Ethereum together was approved as well. And Grayscale also today applied for a Bitcoin ETF for their Bitcoin mining corporation. So there's essentially going on, like Mara Holdings and so on. So here it is. Grayscale has launched a new ETF named Grayscale Bitcoin Miners ETF MNRS. The ETF essentially has launched today, and it gives investors an easy way to gain exposure to Bitcoin mining industries directly, bypassing direct Bitcoin holding requirements. According to the announcement, it will be traded under the ticker MNRS on the New York Stock Exchange, Akora. The Grayscale Bitcoin Miners ETF closely mirrors the performance of companies that mine Bitcoin. It targets companies in the index Bitcoin Miners Index, a group of companies whose principals also source of earnings comes through Bitcoin mining, providing essentially services ranging from mining software and equipment to infrastructure. David essentially Larvalis, and Grayscale's global head of ETFs, said that Bitcoin miners, the backbone of the network, are well positioned for significant growth as Bitcoin adoption and usage increases, making the MNRS an appealing option for a diverse range of investors. In short, Bitcoin miners are very important as they are responsible for securing and supporting the network of Bitcoin, and Grayscale is betting on their growth as more people adopt Bitcoin daily. The fund essentially includes top Bitcoin miners like Marathon Digital, Riot Platforms, Core Scientific, and other companies, including essentially CleanSpark, Iris Energy, Hut8, and essentially a few more. These companies provide the necessary hardware and software to keep Bitcoin mining operations running smoothly. It's not something that I would recommend to anyone essentially to go towards Bitcoin mining, but if you're somebody that wants to be involved on both sides of the crypto space, if you want to be inside the crypto space in general in terms of tokens and utility and so on, but you also want to be involved in the stock market, you can go for essentially ETFs like this instead of just going for one by one like Marathon Digital and so on. Now there are also other ETFs that are happening inside the crypto space. There's one particular ETF that's going to be approved pretty much very soon by the new SEC. That is an ETF that's been created to invest into crypto companies in the US, which is the first of its kind, because we have a Bitcoin ETF, we have an Ethereum ETF, we have a mixture of both, which is approved today. We have Bitcoin essentially mining ETFs. We have XRP ETFs that have been filed in, HBAR ETFs that have been filed in, Solana ETFs that have been filed in, Doge ETFs that have been filed in, even a meme coin ETF that's been filed in. But we also have the one of its kind ETF that essentially shows that they want to invest into blockchain startup companies and American blockchain companies in America. All in all, it's just signals of where we're heading towards, which is more institutions getting involved inside the crypto space. And on the topic of essentially Grayscale, creating this new ETF, Grayscale also today filed their XRP ETF. So here it is. Grayscale files for XRP ETF with New York Stock Exchange. Grayscale's Investments has officially submitted a proposal to the New York Stock Exchange to launch a spot XRP ETF. This trick aims essentially to transform Grayscale's existing XRP trust into an ETF, allowing for the trading of shares directly on the New York Stock Exchange. The filing highlights essentially Grayscale's XRP trust among the largest funds focused essentially on XRP, boosting approximately $16.1 million in assets under management. This trust essentially serves American investors looking for exposure to XRP without the complexities associated essentially with direct cryptocurrency ownership. In addition to this significant step, Grayscale also announced the introduction of Grayscale's Bitcoin Miners ETF earlier today as well, and which will provide essential exposure to public traded companies for Bitcoin in the space. Now, a spot XRP ETF will enable investors to gain access directly to the fluctuations of XRP's market price, simplifying essentially their investments and process. And this filing is a part of a broader trend where asset management firms essentially are increasingly pursuing cryptocurrency-focused ETFs. Recently, Grayscale has sought to establish ETFs essentially tracking other digital assets like Solana, indicating an expansion of cryptocurrency in terms of investment portfolios. And the establishment of a Grayscale essentially XRP trust last September marked a pivotal essential moment for accredited investors seeking regulatory exposure to XRP. Last September, when Grayscale introduced an XRP trust, I said when I read out that news last September, when I read that news, Grayscale XRP Trust, I said that if an XRP Trust is created by Grayscale, that's an indication that we're going to be having a Grayscale ETF. Any Grayscale Trust automatically will turn into a Grayscale ETF, is what I said, which now fast forward into today, we have a Grayscale XRP ETF. Given the ongoing legal developments surrounding Ripple Labs and its relationship with the US Securities Exchange Commission, SEC, and the latest filings could be a crucial factor in shaping XRP's future within regulated markets and market spaces, as interest in crypto investments continues to rise, Grayscale's essentially move reflects a growing confidence in digital assets and the potential for mainstream acceptance. Also on that aspect, regarding Grayscale and their essentially XRP and the SEC situation, and when is their ETF going to be accepted? According essentially to Eric and James, who are ETF specialist analysts from Bloomberg, and Bloomberg is pretty much gospel for the entire Wall Street. According to them, we should be getting a multitude of ETFs accepted by April. So are we going to get a Grayscale XRP or any other XRP ETF or so on by April? Well, there's a high percentage of that happening, according to Eric and James, who have been correct on essentially shouting out deadlines of when things are going to be passing through. And they are specialists in terms of analysts for ETFs from Bloomberg, which is gospel for the entire Wall Street. And also, on that topic of XRP, XRP has been used for essentially collateral. Now, borrowing against your crypto assets is one of the main topics that's going to come about when a lot of people make a lot of money. If you're going to make a lot of money on your crypto assets, you want to pay the lowest amount of tax or you want to pay zero tax. Now, none of this is financial advice in any sort of way, entertainment purposes only. But personal preference for myself, if I want to lower my taxes essentially when it comes to crypto assets or pay zero tax, the best way is to borrow against my crypto assets and use my essentially crypto assets as collateral. Obviously, pay back what I borrow within the time frame, so I don't lose my crypto assets. So let's just say if I'm in the UK or if I'm in the EU or if I'm in America or whatever, essentially where I'm living, it doesn't mean that you have to move to a different country, is what I'm trying to say. Because in the past, if you told anyone, how can I, pay less tax on cryptocurrencies, people will tell you to move to Dubai, which is, by the way, still illegal to do that, to move to another country just to cash out. But people will tell you, move to Dubai, move to Monaco, move to Saudi Arabia, move to Bahrain, Kuwait, and you pay zero tax on your crypto assets. You don't really have to do that. You can just stay where you are in any country around the world and just put down your crypto assets as collateral with banks or essentially crypto firms that are essentially regulated within your own jurisdictions, and use your assets as collateral and borrow against it. And you pay zero tax because you don't pay tax on debt. And you can do that from your living room couch. Just by sitting on your living room couch, no matter which country you're in, you can do that. And well, one wealth manager decided to do this with XRP. Here it is. Digital Wealth use XRP as collateral, uses essentially XRP as collateral in a mega loan deal. Digital Wealth Partners, a prominent wealth management firm, has made a landmark move for digital asset adoption. Announced today, essentially, the firm has completed a 7-figure loan using Ripple's associated token XRP as collateral. This development represents a significant step towards bridging the gap between crypto and traditional finance, TraderFi in other words, unlocking new possibilities for digital assets backed in terms of lending. This deal shows XRP's potential in lending and allowing holders to access liquidity without selling. Investors can leverage their assets while essentially avoiding traditional financial strains. And essentially, Digital Wealth Partners credited blockchain technology and smart contracts for playing a crucial role in ensuring the efficiencies and securities of the transaction. Smart contracts were leveraged to automate essentially payments and reduce manual work and ensure transparency. And this XRP-backed loan was essentially completed within just 72 hours. So this should basically give you essentially a time frame of when it comes down to it and you want to borrow against your assets, especially if you're somebody that's holding XRP, because some people that are holding XRP, including myself, don't want to sell their XRP ever. Personally, I've said, for the longest time that I'm never ever selling my XRP. It's never going to happen. I'm never going to sell my XRP. It's an asset that I will always borrow against, essentially use it as collateral and pay back the loans, whatever I do borrow against it. So I don't lose my assets, obviously, because I'm putting it down as collateral, and pay zero tax. And for people like me or people who just don't want to pay any taxes, borrowing against crypto assets is always the best scenario. And you can have essentially an idea of it. For the time being, if you do want to borrow against your crypto assets, about 72-hour waiting. And smart contracts essentially, and compared to traditional loans, where they take weeks to finalize essentially your loans, due to extensive paperwork and approvals, with cryptocurrencies, it's 72 hours. So instead of going back and forward with the bank for weeks upon weeks to get an approval, 72 hours, you're approved with your loan. While essentially the terms remain undisclosed, its flexible repayment options make it appealing to institutions. This model could set a stage for the future of crypto-backed loans. Now, for the time being, we've only ever heard of essentially Bitcoin loans. Now, there are obviously, Nexo, for example, is a platform by the name of Nexo, which is regulated in some jurisdictions, and you can borrow against certain crypto assets. But for the time being, from mega corporations or wealth managers in this case, we've only been hearing essentially Bitcoin borrowing and using as collateral. For example, there's one major firm in Wall Street that essentially is the biggest one that everybody's borrowing against on Wall Street and using their Bitcoins or Bitcoin ETFs as collateral. But for the first time ever, XRP is in the play. One of the biggest wealth managers out there has decided to use XRP to borrow against and use as collateral. This is good news, where we see more institutions getting involved inside the XRP space. And they should do anyways, because according to the court case that was going on between SEC and Ripple, we find out that they have essentially 1,200 contracts in place, 1,200 plus contracts in place, to be fairly honest. So more indications of, basically what the next clientele is going to be in this space, and it's going to be institutional clientele. And the things that are going to be happening very soon is ETFs. ETFs are going to be approved very soon, which means that this case needs to be dropped very soon before the ETFs get approved, because we can't have an SEC versus Ripple case when we have XRP ETFs in place. So this case needs to get dropped very soon for those to happen. And if April is the deadline for an XRP ETF to happen, and let's not forget, Grayscale doesn't wait along. Grayscale sues. The last time that Grayscale applied for a Bitcoin ETF, for the first time ever, when they applied for a Bitcoin ETF and they didn't get approved, they sued the SEC and they won. And then Bitcoin ETF started rolling through because of Grayscale. So Grayscale doesn't like to wait around. They want their XRP ETF ASAP. And if they don't get it, they'll sue. And the SEC knows this. And the SEC is now pro. So they're pro crypto. So they have no choice but to approve these ETFs ASAP now. Because they know if they don't, Grayscale will sue them. And because they're pro crypto, they can't really wait along. And on that topic of this case needs to get dropped ASAP now because Grayscale has just filed for an XRP ETF. That's the bigger picture as well. A lot of people need to understand this. Grayscale applying for an XRP ETF, that's basically pressure on the SEC to close this case ASAP and approve the XRP ETFs because they know Grayscale will sue them. So if you want an indication of how soon is this case going to come to a close, very soon by the looks of it now that Grayscale has applied for XRP ETF. And on that note of case come to soon ending and essentially Grayscale ETFs happening, more XRP ETFs happening, all good things must come to an end, which they have now. So we have come to the endings of tonight's live on episode 200, essentially, and 52 of the CMF live. But if anybody does have any questions, go for it for last minute questions. And let me go inside the comment section first as well, because there's a few questions I think I need to answer as well. That's one thing countries don't want Trump to fix the US. It's true. There's a lot of things that countries don't want. Countries don't like the idea of essentially Trump fixing any of them. El Salvador will become a CBDC country just like any other country. Facts. Peg, good to see you as well. How you doing? Sorry, I'm late. No problem, Peg. Good to see you. Absolutely brilliant news, Miles. Let's go, Ian. Yeah. We have come to the endings of tonight's live, CMF members. This was episode 252 of the CMF live. Apologies if we did end 7 minutes sooner than we normally do. Sorry about that, everyone. We are ending about 7 minutes sooner than we normally do. Thanks, Miles, and good night all. Stormy, see you tomorrow sometimes usual as well. Dying, just got here, missed it all. Semper, let's go. See you tomorrow sometimes usual as well. Thanks for amazing live, brother. Camel, see you tomorrow sometimes usual as well. Great live, as always. Take care all. Thank God Trump won. Let's go, Ray. See you tomorrow sometimes usual as well. Good night, Miles, and great live. See you tomorrow. Free forever. See you tomorrow sometimes usual as well. If you're watching this for the first time ever and you're wondering what is this and who the hell am I, this is called the CMF Live. It stands for Crypto Mouse Family. And this is episode 252 of the CMF Live. My name is Miles. I go by the persona of Crypto Mouse. And I'm the host of this live Monday to Friday, 11:25 p.m. UK time onwards. And I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about regarding the world, completely transforming into a digital space. You can tune in for episode essentially 253 tomorrow, 11:25 p.m. UK time onwards. And the disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So if you're watching for the first time ever, this is the CMF Live. Good night, Miles, and thank you for a great live and news. JPC tomorrow about the same time as usual. Thank you, Miles. Good night. All Lena, see you tomorrow same time as usual as well. Free forever, see you tomorrow same time as usual as well. Mike, thank you, Miles. See you tomorrow same time as usual as well. Thompson, see you tomorrow same time as usual as well. Thank you very much, Miles. Have a good night, everyone. Tall, see you tomorrow same time as usual as well. Thanks, Miles. Have a good night, everyone. See you tomorrow. Orphan, see you tomorrow same time as usual as well. Usually I fall asleep before the live ends. Why? Because of the good news you share keeps me calm. Relieved Trump is in power and your smoothing voice. Thank you so much, Happy Pisces, for the kind words. See you tomorrow same time as usual as well. Good night, Miles. Great live. Many thanks, brother. Get some rest. See you tomorrow. Ian, let's go. See you tomorrow. Same time as usual as well. Damn, came so late here. Thompson, don't worry about it. Replay the live. I'll see you tomorrow. Same time as usual as well. I will be seeing everybody. Night, Miles and CMF. Pablo, see you tomorrow. Same time as usual. I will be seeing everybody tomorrow. See everybody tomorrow. Same timing as usual. For episode 253 of the CMF Live, episode 253 of the CMF Live. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. By the way, thank you so much to everybody who liked this live on X. Thanks so much to everyone who liked this live on X, retweeted this live on X, commented on this live outside the live on X, and thanks so much to everyone on YouTube who's also liked this live, and thanks so much to everyone who followed and subscribed as well. Don't forget to check DMs when you're less busy. Lena, I definitely will. Thanks, Miles, especially for all you do for our group. Let's go, Scott. See you tomorrow, but same time as usual. Don't forget to share the live and comment after the program. Let's go. Take care, Thomas. Let's go. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. See everybody tomorrow, CMF, same time as usual for episode 253 of the CMF Live. See everybody tomorrow, same time as usual.